Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Kala Chanji Radha Kala Chanji Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Good morning, devotees. My name is Manjari Gopika Devi Dasi, and today we will be hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 6, entitled Prahlad Instructs His Demoniac Schoolmates. We will read verses 19 through 30, focusing on verse 24. So we're going to do this the not old-fashioned way, but we usually have a board here, but we don't. So if everybody could pull that up on their devices, or if you don't have a phone, a smartphone, then maybe you could share with someone. So again, we'll be hearing from Canto 7, Chapter 6, verses 19 through 30. We'll take turns reading, and we'll come back and we'll focus on verse 24. And before we begin, I ask for your blessings that I may speak something pleasing to my spiritual master, to Srila Prabhupada, and to all of the devotees. Let us all together chant the invocation prayers. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva norotamam devim sarvasvatim vyasyam tato jayam udirayet nashtaprayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I will also get out my phone. I didn't know we wouldn't have the board. So again, we will be reading Canto 7, Chapter 6, verses 19 through 30, and then we will come back and focus on verse 24. So there's a microphone, I think, next to you, Prabhu. Would you like to start? Yeah, you can read verse 19 and then just pass it around, just the English.
Text 19. My dear sons of demons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, is the original Supersoul, the father of all living entities. Consequently, there are no impediments to pleasing him or worshipping him under any conditions, whether one be a child or an old man. The relationship between the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always a fact, and therefore there is no difficulty in pleasing the Lord.
I don't have it. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller, who is infallible and indefatigable, is present in different forms of life, from the inert living beings, Stavara, such as the plants, to Brahma, the foremost created living being. He is also present in the varieties of material creations and in the material elements. The total material energy and the modes of material nature, Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna, as well as the unmanifested material nature and the false ego. Although he is one, he is present everywhere and is also the transcendental super soul, the cause of all causes, who is present as the observer in the course of the hearts of all living entities. He is indicated as that which is pervaded and as the all pervading super soul. But actually, he cannot be indicated. He is changeless and undivided. He is simply perceived as the supreme Sachidananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Being covered by the curtain of the external energy, to the atheist, he appears non existent.
Text 24.
Therefore, my dear young friends, born of demons, please act in such a way that the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the conception of material knowledge, will be satisfied. Give up your demoniac nature and act without enmity or duality. Show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service, thus becoming their well-wishers. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Text 25.
Hare Krishna. Nothing is unobtainable for devotees who have satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the cause of all causes, the original source of everything. The Lord is the reservoir of unlimited spiritual qualities. For devotees, therefore, who are transcendental to the modes of material nature, what is the use of following the principles of religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, which are all automatically obtainable under the influence of the modes of nature? We devotees always glorify the lotus feet of the Lord, and therefore we need not ask for anything in terms of dharma, kama, artha, and moksha.
Religion, economic development, and sense gratification. These are described in the Vedas as Trivarga, or three ways to salvation. Within these three categories are education and self-realization, ritualistic ceremonies performed according to Vedic injunction, logic, the science of law and order, and the various means of earning one's livelihood. These are the external subject matters of study in the Vedas, and therefore I consider them material. However, I consider surrender to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu to be transcendental.
Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the well-wisher and the friend of all living entities, formally explained this transcendental knowledge to the great saint Narada. Such knowledge is extremely difficult to understand without the mercy of a saintly person like Narada, but everyone who has taken shelter of Narada's disciplic succession can understand this confidential knowledge.
Prahlada Maharaj continued, I received this knowledge, great Muni, who is always engaged in devotional service. This knowledge, which is called Bhagavata Dharma, is fully scientific. It is based on logic and philosophy and is free from all material contamination. Hare Krishna.
The sons of the demons replied, Dear Prahlada, neither you nor we know any teacher or spiritual master other than Sanda and Amarka, the sons of Sukracharya. After all, we are children and they are our controllers. For you especially, who always remained with the palace, it is very difficult to associate with a great personality. Dear friend, most gentle one, would you kindly explain how it was possible for you to hear Narada? Kindly dispel our doubts in this regard.
Thank you. And thus ends chapter 6. But we'll go now to our focus verse for today, which is text 24. Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu dayam kuruta sauhridam bhavam asuram unmuchya yaya tushyati adokshajaha. Please chant. Tasvat sarveshu bhuteshu dayam kuruta sohridam bhavam asuram unmuchya yaya chishyati adokshajaha. Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu dayam kuruta sohridam bhavam asuram unmuchya yaya tushyatya dokshajaha. Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu dayam kuruta sohridam bhavam asuram unmuchya yaya tushyatya dokshajaha. All right, very nice. Let's move on to synonyms. Since we don't have the board and not everyone has this verse on their phones, we'll do call and response. Tasmat, therefore. Sarveshu, to all. Bhuteshu, living entities. Dayam, mercy. Kuruta, show. Sauhridam, friendliness. Bhavam, the attitude. Asuram, of the demons who separate friends and enemies. Unmuchya, giving up. Yaya, by which. Tushyati, is satisfied. Adokshajaha, the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the perception of the senses. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Therefore, my dear young friends born of demons, please act in such a way that the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the conception of material knowledge, will be satisfied. Give up your demoniac nature and act without enmity or duality. Show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service, thus becoming their well-wishers. Purport. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 18.55, Bhaktyamam abhijanyati yavan yash chashmi tatvataha. One can understand the Supreme Personality as He is only by devotional service. Prahlad Maharaj ultimately instructed his class friends, the sons of the demons, to accept the process of devotional service by preaching the science of Krishna consciousness to everyone. Preaching is the best service to the Lord. The Lord will immediately be extremely satisfied with one who engages in this service of preaching Krishna consciousness. This is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 18.69. Nacha tasman manusheshu kashchin me priyakritamaha. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. If one sincerely tries his best to spread Krishna consciousness by preaching the glories of the Lord and his supremacy, even if he is imperfectly educated, he becomes the dearmost servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is bhakti. As one performs this service for humanity without discrimination between friends and enemies, the Lord becomes satisfied, and the mission of one's life is fulfilled. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised everyone to become a guru devotee and preach Krishna consciousness. Yare deka tare kaha Krishna upadesh. That is the easiest way to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By such preaching, the preacher becomes satisfied, and those to whom he preaches are also satisfied. This is the process of bringing peace and tranquility to the entire world. Bhuktaram yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatvamam shantim richati. One is expected to understand these three formulas of knowledge concerning the Supreme Lord: that he is the supreme enjoyer, that he is the proprietor of everything, and that he is the best well-wisher and friend of everyone. A preacher should personally understand these truths and preach them to everyone. Then there will be peace and tranquility all over the world. The word sauhridam, friendliness, is very significant in this verse. People are generally ignorant of Krishna consciousness, and therefore to become their best well-wisher, one should teach them about Krishna consciousness without discrimination. Since the Supreme Lord Vishnu is situated in the core of everyone's heart, every body is a temple of Vishnu. One should not misuse this understanding as an excuse for such words as Daridra Narayan. If Narayan lives in the house of a Daridra, a poor man, this does not mean that Narayan becomes poor. He lives everywhere, in the houses of the poor and those of the rich. But in all circumstances, he remains Narayan. To think that he becomes either poor or rich is a material calculation. He is always Sad Aishvarya Purna, full in 6 opulences in all circumstances. Jai Prabhupada. I recently listened to a class by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, in which he said, desiring to love Krishna is good, but higher than that is desiring to please Krishna. Because when we say, I want to love Krishna, it can still be a little bit about ourselves. I want to feel sweetness. I want to feel connected. I want to feel happy. But when we want to please Krishna, it's no longer about how I feel. It's about his happiness. Even if I don't feel that love returned, even if no one notices my service, if Krishna is pleased, that's enough for me. And this mood is aligned with pure devotional service described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. Ananya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukuyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. Uttama bhakti is the cultivation of activities meant to please Krishna, done with a favorable attitude without any desire for personal gain, liberation, or even knowledge. It's the difference between saying, I want to love you, and I want to bring you joy. So in today's purport, we hear what pleases Krishna the most. What is that? Yes, Prabhupada Priya, our expert preacher, knows the answer. Yes, it's preaching, as very clearly communicated in the purport. Preaching, giving Krishna consciousness to others. And in today's verse, we're told that it's confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 1869. Krishna himself says that he is the most pleased, and there is no servant more dear to him than one who preaches the message of Krishna consciousness. There's nothing that pleases Krishna more than seeing you go out extending the knowledge that you have. Everyone is meant to be a guru. That's why Lord Chaitanya ordered Yare Deka Tare Kaha Krishna Upadesh, that by my order you become a guru, and wherever you go, whoever you meet, just spread the message of Krishna. So this means spreading the message of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and also the holy name. Maybe some people here, like myself, sometimes feel like they can't preach, like you don't know enough, or who am I? I'm so unqualified to even be in this position. And that's all true, but there's one simple technique that my Shiksha Guru, who happens to be my husband, Gokulananda Prabhu, told me, and it's just preach what you hear. Just repeat what you have heard. He used to tell me, he still tells me, you listen to the lectures, you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, all you have to do is repeat that. And so just the other day, I listened to a class by His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. He was talking about this verse. Specifically, he was talking about preaching. And he said, it's not very difficult. You don't have to concoct anything new. You simply have to repeat without any adulteration what you have heard from your spiritual master. And he further stated that our business is how correctly, how perfectly we can repeat the message that we have heard from our spiritual master. And he said, if we are pure, our sadhana is strict, and we're simply repeating, then there will be no less an effect from someone hearing Gita from our lips as when Arjuna heard Bhagavad Gita from Krishna himself. If you think about it, Srila Prabhupada's power was not that he was such an incredible word juggler. He was speaking in his preaching in his second language. His power was not that he would fascinate people with new concocted philosophies. Srila Prabhupada's power was that he spoke the Bhagavad Gita as it is, as Krishna spoke it on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, in this amazing class, he further said that when you have heard properly, you will speak properly. And when you hear properly, you will want to preach. You'll want to. Simply to hear and not to preach, only half the job is done, because you won't properly realize what you've heard. Unless you try to explain the knowledge that you have gained, you're not properly going to understand it. So he emphasized that the preaching process is twofold. First, you have to hear perfectly, then you have to speak perfectly, and only when you can repeat what you've heard to someone else can you measure if you've actually understood. Because he says, simply hearing, you're just going to forget. But if you make this effort, then you will become very, very dear to Krishna. Krishna says that. And who should we distribute what we have heard to? Everyone. That's also in this purport. Everyone. The Panchatattva didn't discriminate. So in today's verse, Prahlad Maharaj, he's instructing his friends, his classmates, to be compassionate and friendly toward all living beings. And generally, we hear a lot about this in this chapter. Generally, people make friends and enemies based on bodily conceptions. This is my family. These people are of my country. But a pure devotee like Prahlad Maharaj sees everyone in relationship to Krishna. Many people, when they think of compassion, they only think of compassion to the body. I grew up as a Catholic, and the ministry that I witnessed focused a lot on that, imitating what Jesus did, feeding the hungry, clothing the needy, providing housing for the homeless. And this was all done out of love of trying to love all human beings as Jesus did. But Srila Prabhupada says that real compassion is helping people get Krishna consciousness, because bodily compassion doesn't solve the root problem of birth and death. You can give a homeless person a house in this lifetime, and then they're going to come back, and they're going to have all sorts of other bodily problems. So real compassion is giving them Krishna. And Prabhupada writes, a person in Krishna consciousness, a devotee of the Lord, is always compassionate. He is not satisfied that he himself is a devotee, but he tries to distribute the knowledge of devotional service to everyone. We're reading Prabhupada Lilamrita at home, and in volume 1, it explains how upset Srila Prabhupada felt that his godbrothers were not interested in preaching. They were not interested in spreading Lord Chaitanya's movement. Prabhupada said, they are simply sitting in Vrindavan or Navadvip doing bhajan. But our Guru Maharaj did not want this. He wanted us to preach. And in the purport of Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 2, verses 36 and 37, Prabhupada explains, the activities of the Krishna consciousness movement are not meant only for oneself, but for others also. This is the perfection of Krishna consciousness. One who is interested in his own salvation is not as advanced in Krishna consciousness as one who feels compassion for others and who propagates the Krishna consciousness movement. One should not come to Krishna consciousness to release oneself without releasing others. And in the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami lists the 26 qualities of a pure devotee, and one of them is compassion. This kind of compassion that we're hearing about. In fact, there's a beautiful, famous verse in the 3rd canto, Canto 3, Chapter 25, verse 21. Titikshava karunika suhrida sarvadehinam ajata shatrata shanta sadhava sadhu bhushanaha. The symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies, he is peaceful, and he abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj often shares that during the time that they were trying to build the Juhu temple, this was in the early 1970s, Srila Prabhupada gave a lecture on that verse. So many of us know the story of Juhu, so I won't get into the details, but just in case anybody's listening who doesn't, there were many envious people in Mumbai, then known as Bombay, and they formed a clique to oppose Prabhupada's acquiring the land and building the temple. They went so far as to break the makeshift temple that was on the property, to try to illegally break the contract, to bribe officials to arrest the devotees. So Prabhupada explained in that lecture in Juhu, where all this was taking place, he said, I have many temples all over the world. I don't have to stay in Bombay. I could have thought, okay, if the people of Bombay don't want me, let me go somewhere else. But no, Karunika, a sadhu is merciful. We have come here to give them Krishna consciousness, so we will not leave. But they are creating so many problems. So, titikshavaha, we have to tolerate all this nonsense and continue. We know there was a lot to tolerate. You should read the book, I'll Build You a Temple by His Holiness Giriraj Swami. I don't think many of us have experienced anything close to what the early devotees had to endure. But they did endure it. Karunika, to give mercy to the fallen souls. This is what pleases Krishna. And Prabhupada said that in spite of all opposition, a devotee must maintain his position as a devotee. He doesn't become his enemy's enemy. He's always the friend of his enemy. Friend of enemy means that he always wants to do good for them to bring them to Krishna consciousness. Even if externally maybe you need to keep some distance, but internally you're the friend of every living entity. All of our acharyas have emphasized this deeper kind of compassion. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says real compassion is spiritual welfare. He says that true mercy means guiding others toward Bhagavan. He says the essential duties of a devotee are these 3 points. Jiva Dai, compassion to all living entities. Namaruchi, taste for chanting. And Vaishnav Seva, serving the Vaishnavas. And how is that compassion expressed? By inspiring others to chant the holy name and engage in devotional service. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said that true compassion means giving people the opportunity to hear about Krishna. And he warned against material philanthropy as being incomplete and superficial, without regard for the soul's nature. In his words, he said, it's just decorating a dead body. So in summary, compassion, as explained by the Acharyas, it goes way beyond material knowledge. True Vaishnavas see everyone, including animals, as being parts and parcels of Krishna. Haridas Thakur used to say, if you chant loudly, then even the trees and other creatures are benefited. His Grace Gokulananda Prabhu told me a very touching story that I would like to share. As many of you know, Gokulananda Prabhu was a brahmachari at ISKCON Chowpatty in Mumbai for 12 years. And he told me about one devotee there who was maybe a little eccentric, we could say, but very sincere. But the way he kind of interacted in the world was just different from other people. Everywhere he went, he would be looking on the ground. Apparently there was some candy, right? Some candy that had the name Radha on it. And so everywhere he went, he'd be looking for candy wrappers that people had dropped in case it had Radha on them, so he could pick them up so that nobody would step on them. And there was a cat that always visited the temple, and he would always make sure that that cat got prasadam. And another interesting thing about him was that he always carried a little speaker box, a Prabhupada box, that would play Prabhupada chanting the Maha Mantra. So we always had that speaker box on, playing Prabhupada, and with him at all times. So one day, Gokulananda Prabhu, this devotee, and some others were in a car in Mumbai when a large truck, kind of like a flatbed truck, pulled up next to them. And that truck was stacked with cages of live chickens. And we know where those chickens were going. They were going to market to be sold and slaughtered. So this devotee rolled down the window of the car and practically hung out of the vehicle, extending his arm out as far as he could, holding Prabhupada chanting in his hand so that these chickens could hear the Maha Mantra before they were killed. That's real compassion. And he was living it. It was so natural for him. The Srimad Bhagavatam says that even if someone just jokingly chants, they get benefited. And that's why book distribution is so important. It's real compassion. Simply by touching the book, the person doesn't even have to open it and read it. Just holding it, their spiritual life begins. His Holiness Chandramali Swami Maharaj echoes this too. He says there are two kinds of devotees: those who are concerned about their own spiritual salvation and those who are concerned about everyone's spiritual salvation. And he recommends that when you preach, when you have an interaction with someone, whether it's teaching them the mantra, he said he carries little mantra cards, or you meet them on Harinam, or you're giving them prasadam, the next step should always be to invite them into an experience, a program, or a class, or going to a kirtan. Because everyone is looking for what we have. They just don't know. They just don't know it. Everyone wants eternal love. Everyone wants to be free from the miseries of the world. Everyone wants to know their true purpose. And I'll tell you something personal. I recently traced my genealogy online, and to my surprise, I was able to trace my lineage of this body, all on my father's side, all the way back to 15th century England. Like no breaks, ancestor after ancestor after ancestor, all the way back to the 15th century in England. My 8th great-grandparents of this current body I'm living in came to this country on the Mayflower. In fact, several of my relatives did. They came on the subsequent ship. They landed at Plymouth Rock, the first settlers of America. And I traced over 350 names, including relatives who fought in the American Revolution, in the Civil War, and of course World War I and World War II. And as I looked at this massive, sprawling tree filled with very interesting and historical figures, one thought hit me hard. None of these people heard the holy name. Not one. Not in 15th century England, not on the Mayflower, not at Plymouth Rock, not the generations after that in the American Revolution or the Civil War or World War I or World War II. Not until my parents' generation. Because Srila Prabhupada brought the holy name to America just 59 years ago. That's how recent his mercy is. And why did he come? Yes, to fulfill the order of his spiritual master, but also because he cared. Prabhupada Lilamrita explains that he knew that the people of America had experienced every kind of material opulence, every kind of sense gratification, and he knew that they were still not satisfied. He came to America to alleviate our suffering. And his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was perhaps the first person who truly cared that people like me and my entire ancestral line didn't know about Krishna. He wasn't indifferent. He was anxious that the people of the West receive Mahaprabhu's message. And he didn't just think about it, wouldn't it be nice? He acted on it. He sent disciples in the 1930s to England. And in 1922, during his first meeting with Srila Prabhupada, he said, "You are an educated young man. Why don't you preach this message of Lord Chaitanya in the English-speaking world?" That was his vision. That was his urgency. And Srila Prabhupada took that mission into his heart and made it his life's mission. And this is the compassion of the pure devotees, of preachers like Prahlad Maharaj. This is the compassion that pleases Krishna. So the question becomes, what are we going to do with that mercy? We have inherited, I have inherited what so many generations before us never had the chance to hear. We have the holy name. We have the teachings. We have so much literature in every language. We have the association of devotees. We have everything, actually, what the whole world is, most of the whole world is still searching for without even knowing it. So we can't keep it to ourselves. And even if we're not great speakers or book distributors or preachers, we can still share. We can share what we've heard. We can share the books that we have. Just repeat what we heard. Like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, just give them a chance to hear. So maybe each of us could make a small goal. I like to start small so that I know I can check it off my list and build confidence, and then I can make bigger goals. But maybe you can think of who is one person this week that you could invite to Ram Nomi? Who is one person you could invite to Festival of Joy? Look at your calendar. Is there one Sunday in the month of April that you can join Chakri Prabhu doing Harinam at 3 p.m.? Every Sunday, he does it every Sunday. Is there one Sunday you can join and spread the mercy of the holy name? Hare Krishna, that is what I have prepared. So I'd love to hear reflections or questions or comments or corrections. I'm certainly certain there are many of those.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Manjari Gopika.
Hare Krishna.
In the beginning you said that instead of aspiring to love Krishna, we should aspire to please him. And then I was thinking, well, isn't that what love is? Like real love means you want to please the person, you want to make them happy and bring joy to their lives and make sure that, everything is good for them. So I kind of feel like you can't really separate the two, I guess you could want to please something without love. You could want to please someone without love, because it could be kind of like, you want to please your boss at work just for the sake of getting a promotion, or you want to please them so you can get something. But if you actually love someone, then pleasing them is just comes with, that's what you do. That's what love is.
That's what pure love is.
Yeah.
But not all of us are so pure. But I do understand what you mean. I've also heard Ranath Maharaj say, to love means to please, and to please means to serve.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Uklananda Prabhu?
Regarding this point of pleasing, it just came to my mind I think this happened in Nadwara. It's a holy place in Gujarat, in India, where we have Srinathji, Gopalji standing there. So I don't know exactly when this happened, but there were some thieves who wanted to steal the jewelry, ornaments of the Lord. And one of the thieves actually climbed on the deity or something like that. I don't remember exact details. So that made Krishna laugh. So Krishna was pleased, although they didn't have the love, but Krishna showered their mercy on them. And actually those thieves turned out to be later on, by his causeless mercy, the devotees of the Lord. So yes, I do agree. Love is like $500 bill, I would say. And it comprises everything, including $1, $2 bills. So the glory of the devotional service, the process of the devotional service is, let's say someone may not have $500, but even if someone has $1 bill, Krishna mercifully accepts that. Patram Pushpam.
Tulsi Saki, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Manjari, Gopika, thank you for wonderful class again. And I really appreciate your point about inviting them when you reach out to someone and give them a book or prasad, then to follow up and invite them to the next program. And that is where the continuum is, and that they don't feel lost. And sometimes I forget to do that, and then it's like you have to jog your brain and say, okay, who all did you have the opportunity to reach out to, and then, okay, let's follow up.
Right.
And I know Nrita Kishori is really good at following up. She has this wonderful bhakti circle, and of course there's a whole crew of devotees, but she's very good at following up and making sure that they come to the programs.
Wonderful. You have anything, Prabhu? You have any thoughts to share?
I really liked I'm going to go listen to that lecture that Prabhupada gave in Juhu, Titik Shiva Karunika. I was actually reflecting on that because somehow by some karma or some reactions I've been placed in different countries. This is the 5th country that I'm living in.
Wow.
And actually, when I was living in Kuwait, there was no temple, no devotees. And somehow I just had one person who had met His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj like 10, 15 years ago, and he was chanting 16 rounds and he was trying to do something. And I didn't even know why Krishna placed me there. And when I was there, just by some good fortune, I met this devotee, and then somehow we started preaching. And it's a Muslim country. You can't do so many things like you can do in a free world. And preaching has to be very, very seclusive. Right. But at the same time, I faced so much of resistance, and I just didn't understand how to deal with it at that time. But there were many devotees who did take up service, and they got initiated, and there are like about 2,000 devotees now there. But it was very, very challenging. And I think when you said that, like, you have to be tolerant, I just didn't know how to do that. Also probably because of my immaturity. So I'm going to go listen to that and see what I can try to imbibe in myself. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Have you read I'll Build You a Temple by His Holiness Giriraj Swami? The book?
It's in my list of things to read.
Yeah.
I have a few things I have to catch up on. So
really incredible.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I also wanted to reflect on that statement that you mentioned of love. There is a verse in the 6th canto which describes what is the qualification to actually go back to Godhead. The qualification is one must have pure love for Krishna. So it's kind of very important that we keep that as the goal, is in every activity that we do, that it is to please the Lord and develop love. And I think I try to keep that in mind, and so it was very good, like when you were talking about it, to reflect on why I'm doing whatever I'm doing. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for sharing that. Any other thoughts or questions, reflections? We had an amazing opportunity for service this morning. I don't know what happened. Radha Kali Chandji gave so much mercy to my family members, me and my family. That was cool. Well, I won't keep you. Thank you so much for listening. Hope there's something that you can go and share with others. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.